Have you ever been friends with a note taker?
This is Auto Collabs.
Like someone who takes notes a lot?
Crazy people.
Michael. Michael, you are one of the biggest note takers I've ever known.
It's unbelievable. Here comes the
Is that
next
other bag
one.
full of notes?
And another notepad.
I gotta say, there's
Do you
something.
take notes about where you take notes?
He's like, you know where a good place to. He's like, dear note.
I'm not kidding you. If we pulled up my YouTube right now, there would be videos about how to organize notes better.
Oh, what a nerd!
Right
Didn't
down
you
to
get
like,
that little thing that records your whole life?
it's
does.
also taking notes for me, guys. It's
Unbelievable.
Oh,
When do you ever have time to go back and listen to your notes so you can take
No,
notes
because you know
about
what I do?
listening to your
I
notes?
get it to extract all the action items for me. Then they make their way into our
No,
project
honestly,
management.
though, there's been times in my life where I take a lot more notes, and it is like the tactile memory that you get from like actually writing down the thing.
Yeah.
You don't actually have to go back to it because it connects something in your brain to like my
Bingo.
body connecting the words and the things that I'm trying to translate from what I'm
This
hearing.
goes
so.
way back. This goes way back, and it ties into like data collection. But one of my mentors early on, because I was big note taker like this. I don't remember the number, so don't fact check me on it, but you'll get the point. He's like, when you do this, you are firing 10 neurons in the brain to retain information. When you do this and you consider the movement of every muscle and ligament and everything, you're actually connecting 10,000 plus neurons in the brain.
That's nuts.
Which is why, and it just stuck.
Yeah,
with
'cause
me
you
Let
ever
me
can
find my remarkable.
You
Hold
can,
on.
Well,
Well,
one
my
of the
retention, I notice when I take handwritten notes, my retention's through the roof. When it's
So
like
much
this,
higher.
I retain nothing.
dude,
That's
you're so
wild.
right because you can type literally thoughtlessly.
Yeah.
Like
This, I have to actually.
and you see that. Well, people usually see that as a benefit. I could type notes without even thinking about it.
Fun side
Michael's
note,
like, that's the problem.
somebody tried to talk me out of this once. You probably can't see these, but I write in cursive too.
I did notice that.
Wow.
Yeah,
he does
I don't
that
know-
just
I
so
don't
the
even
person
know when
next
that
to him,
started.
just so the person next to him can't read it.
Yeah.
He doesn't need a
Yeah.
screen.
And their jaw goes like this.
There's gonna be a day. There's gonna be a day when I pass away and my kids are gonna pick up whatever data collection.
Okay,
device
this
I
is
had
your
at the time,
dream.
and they're
Yeah,
gonna be
yeah.
like, and delete.
They're like, they're like, AI, summarize this in 5 words.
They're gonna
Michael
Good dad
podcast.
loved cupcakes.
Good dad love
they're gonna be
cupcakes.
like, feed this to AI, make a summary, and it's gonna be like, your father was always enraged.
Okay, go one more sentence. You never knew.
You never knew. Well, we don't never knew David Steinberg, who is joining us again for Auto Collabs today. We love having conversations with him because he's dialed in, he's a smart cat, and he's been building stuff in auto for a while, so he knows what's up. We hope you enjoy this conversation, and we promise Michael will take notes.
All right, here we are, another episode of Auto Collabs. We all know Dave Steinberg from Foureyes. Thanks so much for joining us today, pal.
Hey, thank you for having me. Great to be here again.
We were just chatting pre-show, and I just got to get this out of the way because now I'm flattered that you might be the only person I've talked to, except for the people, of course, that I grew up with that lived in this area who know where I come from, who you have been to the place.
The Vernon, Kelowna, that whole region, interior BC. It's amazing up there.
This is just an injection from the side. You answered a questionnaire that said you were in a like scary movie zombie thriller thing. Acting. Was that a mess? Were you messing with us? Or was that real?
No. A buddy of mine just filmed a thriller. It was a real deal. It was a real budget movie. It was shooting in LA, New Orleans, and he was trying to get me. He wrote a part for me. I was a child actor way back when. He wrote a part for me. He's like, I want you to be the dad. I'm like, I don't have time to be the dad. It was too many days in LA shooting. I was like, I don't have time to do that. And so then he called me. He's like, I got this part for you. We need to do a reshoot of the origin story of the killer, and I want you to play it.
Oh, how
So,
nice.
so I did that. Yeah, it was
Oh,
great.
you're the killer before he realized he was a killer.
Yeah.
Just
So I
lighting
came out.
things on fire, staring at people too long. you
Oh
know,
my
the
God.
whole-
Yeah. So I came out of my acting retirement 30 years later and got to play the killer. and,
When can we see this movie in theaters?
I don't know. They just sold a bunch of rights. I've learned how movie rights get sold, but they sold rights. They're selling rights to other countries right now, all over the world.
Okay.
So you kind of sell it, you distribute it, you sell the rights to different places. And so
Do you have a profile on IMDb right now?
I have a profile maybe under my stage name, which I'm not going to tell you today.
Dang
Come
Which,
Well,
if
I'm
you
not
see
gonna tell
me
you.
looking
I can't.
away, is because I would be looking it up while we're talking.
Yeah. Okay.
I had to have a different
GPT
name because
GPT deep research. Tell me.
in SAG, in the Screen Actors Guild, you can't have two people with the same name. And when I was a kid and I got cast in a show and got into SAG, they were like, you either have to be David L. Steinberg or you change your name. And my agent was like, your name's really Jewish. Like, you need to change your name. You're going to get typecast as the Jewish kid on everything you do. So I had to change my name.
Okay, this is actually all
So
super
it's
relevant.
David Cavatelli.
This is yeah, right. I'm Italian. No, so this is actually all super relevant because like origin stories, typecast, like the data around what you've been working on since your early days in auto with auto ad appearance and then bringing Foureyes to the market is a lot about like fishing out the deeper thing, like figuring out what makes people tick, what's going on, how to ingest that data, and then relate it to like what needs to happen in the showroom or in the BDC or things like that. I'd love for you to like go to the origin story of why you began creating tools to see data in a different way.
Yeah, I mean, I think at its core, like, my background before adherence and before Foureyes, I had a software company. I came from the software field, and we built a software package for the lumber industry that's still in business 25 years later today. And I left that company to start my own lumber company. And I started my own lumber company, and I built.
Okay, you went from lumber software to actual lumber.
Yeah, because I wanted to see if I could do the things that I was telling people to do. So I was
right, and you
I
had
was like, I have this software package. I'm telling people to do this. I should try it myself. And so I built my own lumber company. Didn't use my software at all, ironically. So realized, but ended up building what became the first prototype of Foureyes, which was like the idea of like using the data that shoppers were doing on my website to sell better. And as time has gone on, I'm really into the idea of sales enablement, which is how do you make salespeople more efficient, more effective? What are you doing? I think that like in the auto sales' inventory marketing sales process, there's no such thing as a great dealer with bad sales process, right? So sales process is a universal thing that you have to be a great dealership. And it's where people spend the least amount of time because it's the hardest. Sales process.
You know what? But they can have bad marketing.
You can be a great dealer with bad
That's
marketing.
truth.
You can absolutely be a great dealer with bad marketing.
I wonder if, okay, so you said inventory marketing sales process. Let's just like inspect this real quick. Bad marketing, seen it, bad website, great dealer, large volume dealer, bad website, terrible marketing, right?
Yep.
Bad inventory. I think at some level you could argue maybe bad inventory, right? Over bloated, a little bit too much inventory, low turn, things like that, but have figured out volume, right? Have figured out this, but sales process. I think you're actually right.
Yeah, sales.
I don't think you can overcome bad sales process with great marketing and great inventory.
Exactly. And I think, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, but the auto industry is completely overserved on marketing. And the reason primarily is because marketing is a thing where you're a vendor and I can take your money and I don't need to ask anything of you. Very little of you. Mm-hmm. Right. So I get just to go, hey, give me your money. I'm marketing for you. I'm doing all the marketing. Well, it's a great arrangement, right? Well, when you go into the sales process, there starts to be more of a handshake. There starts to be more of a dance you have to do with the dealership.
I saw this yesterday. I have a question because I wanted to get your opinion. I'm going to be a little bit controversial. I won't call out who it was, but I saw this post on LinkedIn, and basically this dealer was looking for a marketing vendor. And basically the post was written as like, all I want to do is send you. It was basically that. I'll take care of the sales process. Don't get involved. Don't worry about it. We've got it. Your whole job is to get us more traffic. That's all you get to do. Go get more traffic, release great campaigns. Don't talk to me about sales process because I got that. But what I'm hearing you say, and maybe you'd actually agree with that, because it's like, yo, if you manage sales process well, it doesn't really matter what's coming in. But I feel like the marriage is the like golden nugget in the sky.
Well, yeah, and I think one of the epiphanies I had in having ad parents and then getting rid of ad parents and just focusing on Foureyes and starting to look and get more and more data collection and really understanding what's going on underneath the hood. I always had the question. So in ad parents, we had 1 million times where a dealer was having a bad month, and it's halfway through the month, they're having a bad month, and you're like, okay, we're going to turn up marketing. We're going to turn it up. We're going to get you more marketing. We're going to turn up your marketing. We're going to help you fix this bad month. I don't remember a time it ever worked, honestly. I don't remember a time it ever really worked. And now what I've had the epiphany in having all this data that I realize is part of what happens is that when a dealer needs more leads and they tell their marketing providers, I need more leads, what happens is there's certain leads that are easy to get. There are certain leads that the dealer doesn't actually need. They have plenty of inventory. They're going to sell through it no matter what. They don't need their paid search provider. But all of the providers go out and even the endemics go out and generate more leads on the stuff they don't need, because those are the easy leads to get. And so it's not that they needed more leads, it's that they need more leads on certain things. And the container they have of data, their data systems that hold their data, their CRMs, they don't tell them that well enough. They're not good enough. Those systems aren't good enough to give them good access to that information. And so that's part of the problem. And I think too, like going on this podcast, talking with you guys, I think like part of our job is like, how do we give your listeners a different way to look at something, or to see the underside of something they're doing. And like one of the big exciting, it's both exciting and terrifying where I think we are right now with automotive, is that if you look at the automotive business, it's a lead generation business, right? Similar to lots of other industries. You generate leads, you close those leads. So the auto industry generates leads, and on average, they close 12%. So and they throw out the other 88%, and that's been enough to work really well for years and years and years. But that model is there's water in the basement, and it's sort of rising on that model. And it's no longer part of the reason why it worked to throw out the other 88%. Look, it's an online to offline sale, and the staff you have, even if it's a BDC staff who's relatively low paid, is still high paid by world standards. You're paying a high paid staff to go and do all this follow up. We see after day four, leads close at like 2.3%.
Wow.
So most 65-70% of a dealer's sales come in within the first 3 days of a lead. So it doesn't really.
Can you walk us down, like generally speaking, the percentage from day 1 to 4?
Yeah. So
day 4 is 2.3.
So day 4 to day 30. So if a dealer closes 12%, they're closing 9.7% in that first 0 to 3 days, and their other 2.3% come in days 4 to 30.
Yeah, so 25% or just under 23% or whatever come the next X number of days.
Yeah, but part of that is also endemic to the fact that what dealers have done with their businesses, they've developed a cherry picking model. So the cherry picking model is, how do we pick the low hanging fruit? How do we pick the low hanging fruit? Low hanging fruit. There's all sorts of structural reasons now why that's starting to break down. Right. So one of the problems with that model is you send away 88% of the consumers with a relatively bad experience. And so you create a mood of disruption, right? You create, like, it's really interesting to see what Amazon Autos is doing. Tesla has eroded the franchise agreements. You see Amazon Autos, you see eBay, you see Walmart, you see all of these people kind of chomping at the bits. They're sort of like zombies coming up to the gate, looking at this business model of cars. And there's a lot of movement there. I mean, I challenge you to go into any OEM. If you can ever see on any OEM the access logs of who's coming into the OEM, you'll be terrified. Like, The people that are meeting with the OEMs and having more, there's a lot more meetings with the OEMs.
Interesting.
By people
Like
trying to go direct than we care to admit.
then we realize. I mean, so there's this cherry picking model that's always been a part of the sales process. You're telling us about the water in the basement in this old way. We talked so much about AI and technology disrupting the BDC. Steve Greenfield on one of our programs about a month ago said, or a couple months ago, one of his predictions is that the BDC is going to be obsolete in 24 months, or maybe it was even sooner that. What is your perspective on AI in the sales process and as far as it integrates with, the BDC as we currently see it?
So I think AI in the sales process is really exciting. Obviously very exciting because there's an efficiency model, right? You can have, so for example, like we have AI tools that go after leads in the day 4 to 30, look at all the CRM activity, and you can have a lot of engagement at scale with those leads that aren't effective to send your staff after. And you can sort of handhold, how do you bring those back to your staff? And it's
right.
Super,
you go chase that 2.4% or whatever it is, and let me know if you find something.
It's super exciting, but I actually think that the bigger problem in automotive is different than what we're talking about, because AI works is only as good as the data you give it. And
right.
there's still a data problem in automotive. And the biggest problem is that the infrastructure we have, which is your CRM, your DMS, right? The main containers of customer data are horrible containers of data. So let me give you an example. A CRM.
Well, they're not event stream based. They're not trigger based, event stream based, right? They are based on limited injections.
Very limited. And they don't store the customer preferences, nor part of the reason why the close rate is so high within zero or so low after day 4 is because what happens is, think about this. When we see a good salesperson, so like we have it broken down by salesperson who their close rate in these lead buckets, say 0 to 3, 4 to 7, 8 to 14. We see some salespeople that do not have the atrophy of sales rate in day 4. And they're closing 5% day 4 to 7. They're closing 3% day 7 to 14. What those salespeople are doing differently is they're understanding why Kyle wants to buy a car. What is it you're looking for, right? The cherry picking model is Kyle wants a Jeep Grand Cherokee. I have Jeep Grand Cherokee. Kyle, come in for an appointment, come in for an appointment, come in for an appointment. Kyle's moved on from Jeep Grand Cherokee and is looking at other things. I don't pick that up. I have no understanding of Kyle. Right. So where I'm looking at AI, what we're looking at AI is like to help build the understanding of Kyle, to say, well, Kyle, why is it you wanted the Jeep Grand Cherokee? And if you don't want it now, what is it that changed? What is it that what conclusion did you come to that made you not want it? Oh, I wanted a third row seat. Oh, I wanted towing capacity of this. Oh, I wanted this. Those are the features that make you so you're going to buy or not buy. That's what you need to know in order to sell you in day 8 and day 14. That's what the dealership doesn't know. The CRMs are horrible containers of that information. They don't store that information well.
Well, because they don't have pre-lead information and post-lead information. They have single data points, right? And typically those data points are pretty poor because our forms aren't actually looking for great form data from I mean, like I just looked it up just while we were on the call. Average click to conversion to purchase on Amazon is 9.84%. If a logged in user clicks, 74% conversion rate. That means to the purchase.
Yeah.
Now, granted, we're looking at widgets compared to like large $30,000 purchases, but the fact that we're comfortable in auto with 12% conversion rates on people that have sent their information to us is still mind-boggling.
It's mind-boggling. And the fact, and I think back to my lumber company. Like in my lumber company, when I first started doing PPC, pay-per-click in 2003, I was paying 7 cents a click, 12 cents a click. I was generating a lead for $4. And then I was selling a lead for $40, and I was selling them $40,000 in material. I could throw out every other lead I didn't want all day long. Right. But as leads start to get more expensive, suddenly you have to go, oh shoot, I got to get more value out of these 88 leads that I'm throwing out. And by the way, those 88 leads are your future customers. Those 88 leads, the other thing I think has changed in automotive underneath our fee is sort of the rise of the consumer. The consumer has significantly more value today than they've ever had, right? And we sort of.
What do you mean when you say has more value? Why?
Well, Well, because the easy anecdote is, oh, social media, a bad online review, they have more power to put
More leverage, right?
more leverage, right? But that's just one set. That's just the extreme example. Just think about this. If you're at dinner with somebody now and they tell you they had a horrible experience at a store, we now have more access to information because we're getting Instagram feeds, we're getting remarketed, we're getting all of these competing products selling to us. So if you tell me a horrible experience about a place that you just bought something at, I can just cut that out. The consumer now the friends of the consumer go, oh yeah, so we're not going to do business. We're done. We have enough choice, right? Where before choice was proximity. Choice was, well, this is, you go to Dick's Sporting Goods because it's the only place to buy a soccer ball around here. Well, now I can buy a soccer ball from Amazon. I can buy a soccer ball from anywhere. I can do it.
Anywhere. Costco, online, have it shipped.
So if someone says, I hate Dick's Sporting Goods, and they tell you why, you're like, yeah, I'm making it up, but just to like, so the consumer has way more power now. So now the cost of throwing out the other 88 is higher than what we think.
I understand what you mean. I mean, David, I feel like this conversation could easily be an hour long.
For sure.
I have a feeling that you and Kyle could break off and nerd out over some real nerdery over the course of an hour or two and some coffee or a drink. Michael, I forgot Michael was here because he's taking so many notes and not talking. Look, show him your notepad. Michael is always writing down like voracious notes.
Oh, wow.
Look at that.
Wow.
Look at that.
Yeah.
This is a prop. That's just a prop. That's
no.
That's not a prop. That's real.
That legit isn't a prop. I guarantee I've seen it in person. But David, as always, thank you for sharing your insight. And like, I love how you framed it up in the beginning. Like, our job on this podcast is to help people see things and think through things in a different way. And I think we accomplished that. I know we're going to be making some more content together. And man, I just can't help but need to like leave this podcast and think for another 5 minutes after we're done, just about like, oh my gosh, like what does that mean to everybody? And you'll probably hear drippings of this podcast on our show tomorrow morning because we're going to be chewing it around. So as always, thank you for sharing your insights.
Yeah, great to meet with you guys again. So you guys keep doing what you do. It's awesome. You're getting out there.
I can't wait until the next time. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks guys. All right.
All right, Michael, what's your notes say?
No, he took so many notes that David didn't believe him. David's like, it's a prop.
Well, there's like little things that I pick up on, right? I feel like the three of us were just talking about this the other day. The amount of leads that are going to waste.
Oh,
he wrote down 88%. You think about 88% compounded month after month. I'm going to say it again. We were talking about it the other day.
It's the state of California, right?
Yeah, like, can you imagine if you look back over 20 years and averaged out and took that 88% of all the leads you received? It's like the population.
It's literally every single person in your market.
It's nauseating.
7 times over.
And then you think of the impact that has on marketing, and the best marketing being the relationship and human-to-human contact and presence and how we're playing in the community. It's no wonder why there are high achiever, high performers in our industry who are all about making sure there is throughput to everything they do.
Yeah.
And then there's,
well, I think about, okay, let's just say that we say 20% is a good closing rate, is a great closing ratio.
And it is.
80% of those people are making judgment calls on your business, not just for now, but for the next time.
Right.
So you're not just
right. They decided not to buy for a reason.
You're telling them, don't buy from me now and don't buy from me ever. Actually,
yeah. Ooh.
If you're not considering every interaction that you have with them from day 1 to day 30.
This is where I turn into the Hulk.
Here he is. He's insane with anger again.
Because now think about that. Think about the compounding ripple effect of that. Dealers today who are like, I don't get it. We used to be so strong. I know that's really pointed. You guys know I love you. You are experiencing today the back end of really easy car selling in the past where you didn't even have to think about this stuff. You didn't have to think about the impact on reputation alone through those time periods. And now the struggling GM, we see this all the time. a new GSM or a new GM comes in to save the store because they were a great operator over here and then they can't get it to turn over here. And it's like, yeah, because you don't realize you torched. You're in a town of 15,000 people. And for the last 26 and a half years, you've been torching 88% of your population with a bad experience.
Yeah. So recovering from that isn't a 1 month and done. Oh, man. See, we're going to have to talk about this.
That was a big one. But then I also write down things like 9% are closing within 0 to 3 days. And then just I write down little short form things like this that I think are so intriguing.
Well, I appreciate your notes, Michael.
I do too.
I hope the people appreciate you.
One day we'll publish them and they'll be like, the Federalist Papers back in the day.
There you go. Well, if you're looking for the Federalist Papers, you found them here, maybe. You should just come back for the next auto collabs because we're having a lot of fun with these. And I think we're digging deep into the things that are making this industry tick. So on behalf of Paul J Daly, Michael Cirillo, and myself, Kyle Mounts here. See you next time here on Auto Collabs.
Welcome to Auto Collabs.
Why are we recording?